Welcome to the audiobook. The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. This book begins with a profound and necessary truth. Trauma is not just something that happens in the past, it lives on in the body. Long after the danger has passed, the imprint of trauma can linger in our physiology, emotions, and behaviors. And until we understand this, healing can feel out of reach. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk brings decades of experience working with survivors of trauma, from war veterans and abuse victims to people recovering from accidents and neglect. What he discovered is that trauma changes not just how we think and feel, it alters how we experience being alive. It affects our ability to be present, to feel safe, to connect with others, and to trust our own bodies. This book challenges the traditional belief that trauma is purely psychological or that it can be resolved by talking alone. Instead, it shows how trauma lives in the nervous system, in our muscle memory, our breathing, our posture, even in how our brain processes time and emotion. When a person is traumatized, their body may remain locked in a state of fight, flight, or freeze, long after the danger has passed. But there is hope. Healing from trauma is possible, not by denying the body's reactions, but by working with the body to restore a sense of safety and control. Through methods like mindfulness, body-based therapies, movement, rhythm, and safe human connection, we can begin to rewire the brain and help the body release what it has held for too long. This book is both a scientific exploration and a deeply human guide. It offers stories of resilience, cutting-edge research, and practical tools that help us reconnect with ourselves. It teaches that healing begins when we listen to what the body has been trying to tell us all along. So as you read, you are invited into a compassionate space, where trauma is not a life sentence, and where the body's pain can become a gateway to greater self-understanding and lasting healing. Chapter 1: Lessons from Trauma Survivors. In this chapter, we begin with the real-world experiences of trauma survivors, people whose lives have been profoundly shaped by experiences such as combat, abuse, accidents, or neglect. Listening to their stories reveals an important truth. Trauma isn't something that simply passes. It stays with us, often long after the event is over. Dr. van der Kolk explains that trauma fundamentally changes how we experience the world. One survivor might describe feeling emotionally frozen, as though life is happening around them but not within them. Another may relive the event in nightmares or flashbacks, feeling trapped in the past. Others feel their bodies remain on high alert, constantly bracing for danger that never arrives. These experiences illustrate that trauma is not just in the mind, it is lived in the body. People may struggle to speak about their experiences, while their nervous systems clamor with unresolved stress. It's as if the body stores the memory well, even when the conscious mind tries to suppress it. In this chapter, we also learn how trauma disrupts our sense of trust, in ourselves, in our bodies, and in the world. Survivors often feel unsafe in ordinary environments or disconnected from their own feelings. Relationships suffer because one can't truly open up or feel fully present. Through these stories, Dr. van der Kolk introduces the idea that healing must include relearning safety, not just in our minds, but in our bodies. It means restoring the capacity to be present, to feel grounded, and to trust again, in ourselves and in others. We walk away understanding that trauma doesn't end, but with awareness and dedicated care, we can begin to change how it lives in us. We can move beyond surviving symptoms to experiencing real safety, connection, and presence in our lives. Chapter 2: The Neurobiology of Trauma. In this chapter, Dr. van der Kolk explains how trauma actually rewires the brain and nervous system. Trauma doesn't just create painful memories, it reshapes the way your brain processes emotion, safety, and stress. Key brain areas like the amygdala, hippocampus, and prefrontal cortex are central to our experience of trauma. Amygdala acts like an alarm bell. In traumatized individuals, it becomes highly reactive, throwing the body into fight, flight, or freeze, even when no clear danger is present. Hippocampus stores memories by placing them in time. Trauma can shrink and impair it, leading to fragmented, vivid flashbacks or confusion between past and present. Prefrontal cortex helps with self-regulation and decision-making. When trauma takes hold, this part of the brain can go offline, leaving the person instinct-driven and unable to calm themselves. Trauma also floods the body with stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, that, when chronically elevated, damage not only emotional regulation but physical health as well. Sleep problems, weakened immunity, digestive issues, and cardiovascular strain can all trace back to a nervous system stuck in emergency mode. Dr. van der Kolk emphasizes that trauma is not a personal failing. Instead, it's a biological response, our bodies and brains reacting as best they can to overwhelming stress. The problem arises when this response becomes the norm, creating a persistent state of alert and disconnection. Importantly, healing isn't just about talking about what happened, it's about retraining the brain and body. Techniques such as neurofeedback, EMDR, and gentle touch all help remodel the brain's wiring, restoring balance between emotional centers and regulation network. By understanding how trauma affects the brain biologically, we reframe healing. It's not psychobabble, it's science. And science shows that recovery is not only possible, it's a matter of reclaiming healthy wiring and reclaiming your life. Chapter 3: Embodied Memories. Trauma doesn't just lodge itself in our thoughts, it's stored in our bodies. This chapter dives into how physical sensations, posture, and even muscle memory can hold onto traumatic experiences long after the mind has tried to forget. Dr. van der Kolk explains that our bodies keep track of what the mind can't fully process. Someone who's been in a car accident may feel tension in their chest or stomach when approaching a highway, even years later. A person who's been emotionally shut down as a child may experience difficulty breathing deeply or feel a consistent tightness in their throat. This happens because trauma lives at the sensory level. Our bodies remember the smells, sounds, and physical sensations of moments we were not able to fully process. These memories become somatic anchors, triggering anxiety, dissociation, or even physical pain when we encounter reminders, sometimes subtle, sometimes overt. Importantly, these somatic memories aren't imaginary. They're very real, and they don't require conscious recall. Our brain's threat response is activated by these body-based signals, even if our thinking mind doesn't recognize a danger. This is why traditional talk therapy often falls short. The body is still holding on to something that the mind overlooked. But there is hope. Dr. van der Kolk introduces body-oriented therapies that help reconnect mind and body, such as trauma-sensitive yoga, which focuses on gentle movements and breath awareness to help reclaim safety in the body. Sensoromotor psychotherapy, combining talking with movement exercises to release trapped trauma. Body-centered approaches like movement therapy or psychomotor techniques that tap into the forgotten language of the body. These methods don't ask you to relive the trauma. Instead, they encourage you to become aware of your physical responses, titrate your exposure to discomfort, and learn to regulate your nervous system in safe surroundings. Through these practices, the body begins to speak again, but this time in a voice that feels safe, grounded, and true. As you build awareness of these sensations and move gently with them, you gradually release the somatic tension that has held you back. Chapter 4: The Power of Human Connection. This chapter highlights a fundamental truth. Our relationships deeply shape our capacity to heal. Trauma often breaks trust in our own bodies, in others, and in the larger world. Regaining that trust is essential to recovery. Dr. van der Kolk shares stories of trauma survivors who began healing when they experienced truly safe, empathic connections, whether with therapists, support groups, or even creative ensembles. These relationships serve as living proof that healing is possible, laying the groundwork for trust restored. He explores how trauma survivors often isolate, whether to avoid triggers or because they feel unworthy of belonging. But this isolation reinforces suffering, creating a feedback loop where emotional loneliness increases dysregulation, which in turn pulls us further apart from others. The good news is that reconnection with self, with others, and with groups can repair that rupture. Practices like group therapy, supportive friendships, and compassionate witnessing provide a sense of belonging and validation that directly counteracts trauma's effect. Dr. van der Kolk also outlines the significance of repair experiences, moments when a trusted person acknowledges your suffering, listens deeply, and responds with understanding. These interactions can rewire the brain, teaching it that safety is not only possible, but normal. Finally, he emphasizes that healing is not just an individual path, it is collective. Trauma is often born in disruptions of community. So healing must involve reconnection, through shared language, cultural participation, movement, play, and the arts. These expressions help reintegrate us into a tapestry of mutual belonging. This chapter reminds us that the most profound healing doesn't occur in isolation. It happens in relationship. Safety is co-created, and it's through belonging that we begin to reclaim ourselves and our lives. Chapter 5: Neurofeedback and the Brain's Healing Potential. In this chapter, Dr. van der Kolk explores a fascinating frontier in trauma healing: neurofeedback, a technique that helps rewire the brain's activity patterns in a gentle, non-invasive way. Our brains operate on electrical rhythms, brainwaves, that influence our mood, focus, sleep, and inner calm. Trauma can disrupt these rhythms, leaving you stuck in states of hypervigilance, exhaustion, or dissociation. Traditional therapy helps interpret our thoughts and feelings, but it doesn't directly adjust the brain's electrical wiring. That's where neurofeedback steps in. Using real-time feedback, you learn to gradually shift your brainwave patterns toward healthier state. It's like physical therapy for your brain, similar to retraining muscles, but here you're strengthening the neural pathways that regulate emotion and attention. Within supportive settings, many people find notable improvements: reduced anxiety, better sleep, greater emotional stability, and improved attention. The changes are real because they occur inside the brain. Under the guidance of a trained practitioner, small steps create significant shifts over time. This chapter highlights several case stories: children with ADHD gaining clarity, trauma survivors finding newfound calm, and veterans reconnecting with their sense of self. These are not quick fixes, but gradual rewiring processes that offer lasting change. Dr. van der Kolk emphasizes that neurofeedback isn't a standalone cure. It works best alongside compassionate clinical support, therapy, relational safety, and mind-body practices, creating a rich ecosystem that nurtures healing on all levels. The key message: your brain is not a fixed structure. It can change, adapt, and heal. With tools like neurofeedback, we can support your brain in repatterning itself, ushering in a sense of inner balance and reconnection with your inner life. Chapter 6: EMDR and Reprocessing Traumatic Memories. In this chapter, Dr. van der Kolk introduces eye movement desensitization and reprocessing (EMDR), a trauma therapy designed to help our brains and bodies integrate distressing memories with reduced emotional charge. Traumatic memories are often stored in fragmented, sensory form, images, sounds, body sensations, rather than coherent stories. When triggered, they flood us with intense emotions as if the trauma is happening again. EMDR guides us in accessing these stored experiences while in a safe, regulated state. The process begins when a therapist helps you activate a traumatic memory, then asks you to follow their finger moving back and forth with your eyes, or use gentle tactile or auditory stimuli. This bilateral stimulation prompts the brain to reprocess overwhelming material more adaptively. Over time, the memory loses its edge, distress fades, clarity returns, and new insights emerge. Dr. van der Kolk explains that EMDR doesn't rely on talking about every detail, nor does it force emotional reliving. Instead, it allows the brain to digest trauma, much like how we digest food, helping scattered neural connections reorganize into coherent, manageable memories. He shares stories from survivors who experienced profound relief. Memories that once scarred them lost their power to hijack emotions or trigger panic. Their bodies, too, released the tension associated with those events. The chapter carefully outlines why EMDR works. It reconnects fragmented memory networks, fosters new neural integration, and calms the physiological responses tied to trauma. It's not magic. It's a scientifically supported method that teaches the brain to heal itself in a safe context. By the end, we see EMDR not as a standalone therapy, but as a remarkable tool in a comprehensive healing toolkit. Paired with safety, relational support, and body-oriented practices, it offers a powerful path to reclaiming a sense of peace and mastery over trauma's lingering effects. Chapter 7: Yoga and the Reconnection with the Body. In this chapter, Dr. van der Kolk highlights the transformative power of trauma-sensitive yoga, a practice that helps reconnect survivors to their bodies in a gentle and mindful way. Trauma often leads to a disconnection from bodily sensations. People may feel numb, fragmented, or unsafe within their own physical selves. Standard exercise doesn't address this deeper disconnection. Trauma-sensitive yoga does. It emphasizes awareness and choice, offering a respectful invitation to notice sensations without judgment or pressure. Participants learn to recognize the difference between feeling, such as tightness or discomfort, and being overwhelmed. Through slow, intentional movements paired with mindful breathing in a safe setting, the nervous system begins to relearn self-regulation and bodily safety. Dr. van der Kolk shares inspiring stories of individuals who, after engaging in these practices, report vivid shifts, a renewed sense of personal power, calmer minds, and bodies that feel like home again. For many, yoga becomes not just a form of movement, but a profound pathway to reclaiming their physical presence, step by gentle step. What sets trauma-sensitive yoga apart is its emphasis on agency. You're invited to choose each movement, to pause, to adapt. The focus is inner, sensing, honoring, and responding, rather than achieving or performing. This practice isn't about stretching or fitness. It's about restoring a sense of safety inside your body. It's a conversation between mind and body, where each breath and posture builds trust, rewiring your system to know that you are safe, here, and in control. Chapter 8: Creative Expression and Healing. In this chapter, Dr. van der Kolk examines the often overlooked power of creative expression through art, music, movement, and writing as a profound route toward healing trauma. When trauma has disrupted our ability to narrate or rationalize our experiences, creativity offers a different form of language. It bypasses words and goes straight to the emotional core. Dr. van der Kolk shares how theater, art therapy, and dance can access carefully hidden parts of the self, allowing survivors to express feelings that were once too painful or disallowed to show. These creative modalities provide both distance and voice. You can project your inner experience outward, paint, sculpt, dance, or write, and observe it with gentle curiosity. It's not about creating art for others. It's about using art to reveal truths and process emotions. Stories in this chapter include veterans expressing grief through performance, children drawing their internal experiences after neglect, and adults who found new image and identity through sculpting. In every case, creative expression helped participants link inner experience to outer form, bridging mind and body. What makes creativity healing is that it works beyond the limits of language. Trauma often shatters narrative continuity, making it hard to articulately recall painful memories. But through creative work, fragmented memories can be reorganized, integrated, and transformed. The body begins to embody new stories, replacing chunks of stuck survival energy with flow, direction, and beauty. Dr. van der Kolk encourages integrating creative practices alongside other healing methods. It doesn't require talent, only willingness. Simple acts like doodling while journaling, drumming during therapy, or dancing in place can open new channels for release and integration. At its heart, this chapter shows that healing needs more than nodes and neurons. It needs imagination, play, and expression. When we allow our bodies and minds to be creative, we reclaim a missing piece of ourselves, a piece that trauma often asks us to leave behind. Chapter 9: Reworking the Narrative. Telling Our Truth. In this chapter, Dr. van der Kolk emphasizes the healing that happens when we find our voice and tell our stories, but not in a raw, reliving way. Instead, he teaches how reframing trauma through supportive dialogue and structured retelling offers integration and relief. Traumatic memories are often fragmented and embodied. They resist being told as neat, coherent stories. Trying to narrate them can feel overwhelming or confusing. But when survivors use gentle talk therapy, with therapists trained to listen deeply and contain intense emotion, they can begin to organize their memories into meaningful narratives. This helps the parts of the brain that were offline during trauma to reconnect and reestablish coherence. Dr. van der Kolk outlines several therapeutic methods that use narrative work. Trauma-focused cognitive processing, where survivors identify unhelpful thoughts related to trauma, e.g., I am to blame, and gently challenge them with new, more balanced perspectives, e.g., I survived. Group storytelling. In safe settings, sharing experiences while others listen with empathy can offer validation, reduce shame, and foster belonging. Theater and role-playing. Techniques that allow people to step into and reinterpret painful moments with fresh insight and accountability, transforming helplessness into agency. This narrative work is not about rehearsing pain, it's about giving trauma a container. Through language and shared attention, fragmented parts of memory begin to come together. The mind grows stronger, the body becomes less reactive. In mastering your own story, you begin to reclaim both your past and your future. Dr. van der Kolk's personal clinical tales show how survivors who once felt frozen by past events became able to speak their truths, reclaim boundaries, and form richer connections. They learned, not by forgetting but by integrating, that they outgrew their wounds and that their lives could carry more meaning than their memories. This chapter reminds us: healing happens when we tell our stories, not to be stuck in them, but to move beyond them. It is in the telling that trauma begins to loosen its grip. Chapter 10: Integrating Mind and Body Through Therapeutic Modalities. In this chapter, Dr. van der Kolk emphasizes that true healing comes from combining mind-centered therapies with body-based practices. Addressing trauma requires more than talking. It demands that we help our bodies regain trust, presence, and regulation. He explores a range of integrative therapies, EMDR and Neurofeedback, which directly shift brain activity and reduce the intensity of trauma. Trauma-sensitive yoga, which invites the body to tell its story through gentle movement and breath awareness. Creative therapies, like art, music, movement, and drama, that offer nonverbal pathways into emotional processing. Mindfulness and meditation, which cultivate internal awareness and help the nervous system recognize the difference between past and present. These methods work together because trauma lives in both mind and body, and both need attention. While talk therapy helps make sense of trauma cognitively, body-based approaches help restore a feeling of safety and embodied presence. Dr. van der Kolk illustrates how healing can be a jeep across two valleys. You need connection and relatability, talk therapy, on one side, and regulation and physical integration, body-based healing, on the other. Crossing both is how true recovery happens. This chapter leaves us with a foundational insight. Healing trauma is not linear. It may feel chaotic, waves of emotion interspersed with calm moments. Some days the body heals faster, other days the mind finds new clarity. But with a varied therapeutic toolbox and a supportive community, we can rebuild safety, coherence, and connection. Healing becomes less about fixing and more about rebalancing, reclaiming the body's wisdom, restoring the mind's clarity, and reweaving the ties that link us to ourselves and others. And in that integration, trauma begins to transform, not into forgetting, but into renewal.